kind of missing a little bit, but it's looking
Kind of difficult and a bit of an uphill battle, I feel, for Simon.
yeah, exactly. And there we see a turn 1 battle compressor discarding 2 executes and a Getsus. Getsus is one of those cards that really helps in this matchup in particular, just because the Whaler deck plays so many item cards.
Mm-hmm.
And we see the executes. Simon's playing 3 of them.
Right.
It's really just extra Pokemon that you can use to bench for Zork's attack, and its propagation ability with trade even is perfect synergy.
Right, being able to just draw 2 free cards every turn without actually having to dump a resource, unless it's a card that you know you're not going to want later, is pretty powerful. But I really believe that, like you said, Getsus is going to be a huge play here. Simon is playing 2 copies of N, as opposed to some that are playing only 1 into Arc, and I think those are going to be some of the key cards in this matchup.
There we see the Versus Seeker for the Getsus, hitting 4 cards, 2 Enhanced Hammer, a Versus Seeker, and a Puzzle of Time, leaving Jay with just 2 Team Flare Grunt and a Skyla in hand?
Right. But right there is what I was talking about. You know, that gets us, he needs to try to time them in the later turns and his ends when he's playing down energy, I feel, because you want to be able to try to get more than 1 attack per double colorless. But you saw how scary that was. Jay had 4 different cards that could remove double colorless energy in that hand between 2 Enhance and the 2 Flare Grunts. So he's not going to make it easy for him.
Yeah, exactly. And you actually see the Vulpix in the active spot for Simon, and he's choosing to play a 1-1 Ninetales line, not a Alolan Ninetales or anything like that. This is an old, regular Vulpix, regular Ninetales, and it's the promo where it's Bright Look. So it's the same ability as Lycanroc GX with Bloodthirsty Eyes, but as a non-GX or EX Pokemon.
Right. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility in there. You also don't have to commit the energy the same way you would. If you don't want to commit the energy, it's a good alternative because, like you said, you don't have to worry about another EXGX just kind of sitting on the bench as a target.
Yeah, so unfortunately for Simon, he did have kind of the perfect turn 1 against Wailord, where you Getsus their hand away, hit their stadium out, and now they're just left with few cards in hand. But Jay does have that Skyla, which he Skylas for another Tropical Beach, and he will be able to replenish his hand. So it'll be interesting to see if Simon can try to get this again and replace the stadium again. Hope he doesn't have an out.
Absolutely. Simon's playing 3 copies of Skyfield, so he has 2 more that he can be searching for, but that'll be huge if he can pull it off again, because knocking out a second Tropical Beach, it's going to be much harder for Jay to do that, again, also following up. So, being able to just kind of take out those resources. Now, the cool thing about, playing against something like Wailord is you have a lot of time to set these plays up. So if you don't really want to do anything for a bit, get your board situated, the only thing you really have to watch out in those kind of scenarios is Hugh coming down and taking a bunch of cards and ripping them out of your hand.
Yeah, Hugh, an older card where each opponent or each player draws or discards down to 5 cards, I believe.
I believe it's 5, yes.
Yeah, so when you're playing this draw-go game, you have like 20 cards in your hand. You basically just discarded 15 cards from your opponent's deck.
Because you're usually going to be playing your resources as Wailord, because you're going to have to play Max Potion or Acerola or an energy removal card every turn, so your hand won't get as large as theirs, but Hugh basically is just going to come in and say, you're stockpiling to try to end, I'm just going to get rid of most of those cards so you don't have the ability to shuffle them right back into the deck.
Exactly, and a play Jay made before he used Tropical Beach last turn was Versus Seekering the Skyla back to his hand. It's really watching out for another Getsus play and making sure he has an out to another Tropical Beach if he needs to. But Simon plays the Tapu Lele Wonder Tag 4 and N, and he's really deciding what he wants to do. He also has a Guzma, I believe, in his hand. And Propagation Trade, a classic combo. We saw it ever since with Diving Draw with the old Empoleon. And here we see the Guzma getting the Vulpix out of the active spot, just bringing up another Wailord. They don't even switch it. They're the same. Double Colors Choice Band. But with Simon's bench being so low, it's not going to do a lot of damage.
Still hitting for 90, so it puts him in a position that Jay, I feel, still has to heal himself in some way, because at any moment Simon can just lay down a Skyfield, bunch of Pokemon. 90 damage is definitely enough to be able to set up the knockout. Zora maxes out at 210 with the full board and everything, so if it even has 40 damage on it going to the turn, it's technically at risk for being knocked out.
Alright, and he actually benched that execute to get a little extra damage as well. So 110, meaning it's going to take a little less if he doesn't have Max Potion or Acerola out. And looking at Jay's hand, that Beach really replenished it for him. He has an Enhanced Hammer. I believe I see Acerola Max Potion as well. And there we go. Acerola bringing up the Robo Substitute. Kind of just, it's a free turn.
Right.
Especially when you're forcing your opponent to get more energy.
Right. Simon's not playing any kind of cards like Hypnotoxic Laser or anything like that, so he has to commit an energy just to hit the Robo-Sub, unless he wants to Guzma around it. See, this is a play, that, again, I really like highlighting when I feel something that separates a good player from a really good player, because with Jay, he just put himself in a position where Simon, as I mentioned earlier, kind of wants to play an N or a Ghetsis when he puts down those double colorless, but if he does that now, all he does is knock out a Robo-Sub. He doesn't even get to put damage on a Wailord, so he's kind of forcing him to do the Guzma play instead, which at that point, he gets to keep his resources in hand, and there's a lot more of a likely scenario.
Who needs Guzma when you have Bright Look Ninetales bringing up the Wailord again, and with a second double colorless?
And there's that end. It puts him down 6, says, hey, I don't care if you're holding on to those Flare Grunts I saw earlier. Let's try to see if I can make you whiff that energy denial with the Ace Roller Max Potion, whatever I need to do. This is what I like to see from, on the Zoroark player side.
This is Pokemon is all about trying to put on pressure to your opponent. With these deck out decks like Wailord, like Shocklock, and stuff like that, it really is trying to deny your opponent the ability to attack.
Absolutely. Which, it's crazy to think that, you have to remember, most of the time you want to take 6 prizes and everything, but there are other ways of winning the game. Jay will probably never attack in this whole series. The only attack that he can even use is he does play 1 copy of a Lightning Energy and a Xurkitree GX, so he can use the GX ability from Xurkitree, which takes a card from Simon's hand and puts it into his prizes. So it just fits the theme of what Jay's trying to do with his deck.
Yeah, exactly, and there we see the Riotous Beating, dealing 110 damage to Wailord, but on Jay's turn he Nest Balls for a Hoopa. Interesting card that's been added to this deck because it's really been missing a safeguarder since its previous iterations, like with Suicune, or even like Sigilyph, maybe, stuff like that, where Shining Legends, you got another safeguarder that prevents GX and EX Pokemon.
Right. Because unfortunately, with the release of GX, it really just made cards like Suicune irrelevant, as you're saying. So
Carbink.
Exactly. All of them, they don't.
Carbink.
Yeah, Carbink was a wonderful card, and he would probably be seeing a lot of play right now if he prevented cards from GXs with things like Lycanroc and Buzzwole. It would really be a powerful card.
And there we see he opts for the Team Flare Grunt and a Max Potion, again doing what Wailord does, and then ends his turn by beaching.
And
I think Simon just beached as well, or no, he traded.
Yes. And Simon is playing 2 copies of Hex Maniac, so he does have an out to knock out the Hoopa. He also has an out to the Xurkitree through the same Hex Maniac as well, but there's only 2 copies.
Yeah, and let's be fair, you need to knock out some Wailords to beat this deck.
Oh, of course. Because knocking out 1 Hoopa doesn't even actually do anything because that'll be the 7th prize.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of irrelevant to knock it out. It's just something that you're probably going to have to deal with eventually,
and
though.
Here we see a Ghetsis, but it does not look like it will hit much. Just a single copy of Enhanced Hammer. And I don't know if Simon has a double colorless in hand. I think I see Computer Search, but there's so many resources in Jay's hand that it's really not very good right now.
Jay's got everything from Zero Sick, another Beach to lay down. I see an AZ in there. I think I actually see 2 Zero Six, so he's just got a lot of ways. I mean, Simon can't even put down that double colorless safely when you know your opponent's sitting on double Zero Sick like that. I mean, it really puts Simon in a position. What do you do as a Zoroark player to be able to overcome this kind of hand?
Exactly, and already down 2 double colorless, only having Puzzle of Time as his recovery. He's really going to have to play super tight and not make any mistakes to try and beat this matchup.
Right. Every single double colorless energy has to count, has to put damage on the board.
It looks like Simon's actually conceding the game. It's too insurmountable to come back. And Wailord doing what it does, being a tank and just not letting his opponent play the game.
I mean, I can tell you when Simon picked up his prizes, I did see at least one double colorless prize. So I think he knew with one prize, no special charge, it would have just been too difficult to overcome that kind of hand, and it would just need a lot going for him. And he also knows, of course, that Willard has to do a lot when it comes to time. So I feel like, making that educated decision, you know what, I'm going to concede early. Let's play game 2 as long as we can, see if I can make me pull something out game 2. And when your matchup is as difficult as one like this, coming out with a tie really is just like a victory. Because
definitely.
I would definitely take a tie in Simon's position over a loss. You got to be confident if you can walk away with even just that, taking even a game off this Wailord.
Yeah, again, with Wailord, you really have to do 2 things for your turn. You have to heal, and you have to take away your opponent's energy.
Right.
If Simon can kind of catch Jay in a spot where he can't do one of those things, then he'll definitely be able to try to mount a comeback.
We did see Jay open with another Pokemon, so again, no mulligans on his side, despite only having 6 basics to start with. And I want to see this Getsis come into play on Simon's side. If you're him, you really got to feel confident about trying to rip away those resources, keep that Tropical Beach. Wow, seems exactly like last game. Simon opening with his lone Vulpix yet again. Not exactly his favorable start, but he's going to have to work with it and do the best that he can with it.
It's better than like an Execute or something like that.
Definitely. You do have 3 copies of Execute, which is probably one of the biggest downsides to playing so many of them, is that it's a 30 HP Pokemon that you can just open with, and a lot of things can happen when you open up with just one basic Pokemon 30 HP. With cards like Hypnotoxic Laser in the format, you may not even get a turn when they have that situation
exactly.
happen.
Thankfully, he doesn't have to worry about being knocked out in this matchup particularly.
No.
And we see the turn 1 Tapu Lele GX using Wonder Tag to search his deck for a supporter. It'll be interesting to see what he chooses to get. There's so many supporters in Jay's deck that gets us kind of as a hit or miss. And if he has the Tropical Beach, you're kind of just helping him.
Right. I think that's going to be the biggest thing there is, does he have that Tropical Beach if you go for the Getsis? Interesting that he's going to be going for the Guzma. I don't know if he has a Tapu Lele already, or excuse me, if he has a
he has
already.
The Bridget in hand, so Guzma for next turn if Jay chooses to bench another Pokemon. But Jay could also play around it and be like, alright, I won't bench anything else, I don't need to.
Right.
And you'll have to waste an energy to retreat.
Exactly. And there are 2 copies of Floatstone in Simon's deck, so I think he's, Simon again, he's just looking for whatever he can to really try to work with something in this matchup. So I feel like he's putting himself in a position where he's saying, hey Jay, don't bench anything. I've got this Guzma. And then hopefully maybe he can put Jay in a position where if you don't have another bench Pokemon, your AZs and Acerola don't work. You got to hit Max Potion as your only heal card. So you're kind of in an interesting situation. You don't want to bench something, you don't want the Guzma to go off, but you need to bench something because you got to be able to use Acerola and Max Potion, and you don't obviously want to get benched out, having him knock out one Wailord to win the game. You want to make sure he takes all 6 prizes if he's going to actually take that win.
Exactly, and drawing for Jay, he drew a Skyla, but it looks like Team Rocket's Handiwork is the supporter of choice for turn 1. 1 heads, 2 heads, so this card discards 2 cards from the top of your opponent's deck. Every heads that you get, flipping 2 coins. So the full 4 cards.
Those were some pretty good cards, though, to see off Simon's deck. He doesn't want the Execute. The Zorua, not really a big deal. Bridget, already played it, don't want it. He loses a Zoroark, and that's not the end of the world.
That's all Jay played for the turn. And no Tropical Beach or anything. Or he does have the Tropical Beach, but not enough cards in the hand. Or too many cards, is what I was trying to say.
I kind of like, holding that there. You don't really want to, you'd rather bump your opponent's Skyfield if you're not going to get a huge advantage out of it anyways. And I do see Jay holding a Skyla in his hand as well, so he knows that if he does come out of the gates and put a lot of damage on the Wailord this turn, all he really has to do is go Skyla for Max Potion, play down Tropical Beach, get a couple cards. All right, let's get back into this.
Exactly. And we see a Zoroark GX come down for Simon Narode.
He does decide to trade away one of his Acerolas, knowing that he will never get to play that card, and that Jay will not do any damage to his Pokemon at any point.
Yeah, he wishes it was an AZ right now.
Yes, these are one of those situations where you're like, well, that would be a lot better as an AZ. It's crazy how you don't really see too much play of AZ anymore, because Acerola in most scenarios is just a superior a superior option, being able to keep the cards attached to it and everything as you pick your Pokemon up. But you get these odd little scenarios like this.
Yeah, and there we see a pass from Simon, not willing to sacrifice energy to retreat and not having any in play at all, and not drawing a Float Stone. That's also another reason Jay didn't really play down the beach, is because, well, my opponent can use it too. He can probably use it better.
Right. And we do see the Death Ball, though, getting at least the Whale Lord there. Interesting. I kind of would like to see, knowing your opponent has that Guzma, he's just saying, well, I'm just going to play into it now. It's going to come out eventually, so I'm going to need to get into the basic. I can't survive with just one Whale Lord, so let's just get him to burn that Guzma.
Exactly. With 2 Wailord EX in play, it'll be interesting to see what Jay chooses to do. Does have the beach to draw 2 cards, and he's really just sitting pretty. His hand's looking pretty good. He chooses just to pass. Simon's not really putting pressure on him, so why do anything?
Right. Not really much else that he actually needs to make happen right now.
He's already up a game.
Exactly. At this point, he's in control. He can control the pace and how it goes. Simon's the one that needs to put the pressure, because if neither player does anything, Jay wins. I mean, that's just the way his deck operates. So he's going to let Simon make the first move, and he's going to react based on that.
Seeing all these max rarities, Zoroarks, and Tapu Leles in play, it's kind of blinding.
It really is, Double Golden Execute, everything full art, even the Hex Maniacs and Gold DCEs.
For anyone who knows Simon, that's just how he plays. He has to have max rarity everything. And there we see Propagation Trade. Propagation Trade again. Really digging for that Floatstone and a double colorless. But there we see the Guzma. Does he have the double colorless in his hand to start putting pressure on? He does! Alright. And he has the Skyfield in hand too, but it'll be interesting to see if he actually chooses to play it down with all the Pokemon. You really want to get rid of a Tropical Beach with all your stadiums.
Right. You have 3 Skyfields, your opponent has 4 Beach, so again, both players sitting there making sure they want to win that stadium war, so it makes things a little bit different.
And Shyman showing extreme patience and not playing anything down, forcing Jay to make the first move, essentially. And there we see Enhanced Hammer and an AZ doing, like I said before, healing and getting rid of your opponent's energy.
2 things he needed to do. He had them both. And this might be where we see the Tropical Beach, because Jay played 2 cards. I believe he's only got 4 in hand now. Beach would put him to 4. So he would actually get a decent amount off the Beach at this point, and might be worth playing. But again, knowing that he has this Skyfield in play, just kind of hoping to see who plays what first.
It's like this ultimate game of chicken.
Now Simon's hand is getting pretty large, so I mean, at any moment Jay can just pop down that hue, get rid of a bunch of resources, and that really puts the clock on Simon so that he can't put them back into the deck later within.
Exactly, but he really needs to find that double colorless, which he does off that second trade. With the Choice Band too, putting even more pressure.
Right now, I mean, this is kind of the perfect board and everything for Simon in terms of, the amount of Pokemon in play. So right now he's able to hit for 130 with the Choice Band, so you're doing a 2-hit knockout already. So there's no reason really to overcommit your resources, play extra cards out of your hand that you want to be putting back in your deck eventually anyway, so...
And ouch, there we see the Max Potion from Jay and the Zero Sick to take off the double colorless. That is 2 energy down. And Jay has done all of this without playing the Tropical Beach in his hand.
Right, and you can tell he's still sitting on another way to remove energy and another way to heal next turn. He could do both of them again. So he's just thinking, well, if I have the resources, I'm going to hold this Tropical Beach. I want to bait out the Getsus. Finally, he decides to play it, going for the fresh hand of 7, holding Max Potion via Seeker for next turn. I think I even see Enhance Hammer in there as well. So, he's really just going to be set up to do this all over again, just like last game.
This is the turn, though, where Simon needs to get that Getsus and Skyfield combo, trying to disrupt Jay's hand enough to where he can try to take a few knockouts without getting disrupted.
Right. This really is that turn. There's very few moments, when you're playing against Wailord, you've got to look for these critical moments like this to be able to swing the game or take that advantage that you need, because otherwise they're just going to be able to, if you play too much into their trap, it's not going to go too well for you. So you really want to take advantage of moments like this.
Yeah, and here you see all these executes putting in work. Propagation, making it so you could just play this computer search for free.
Right. Computer search for free. Trade
Ultra
for
Ball
free.
Trade for free.
Everything. It really does make it, when you're playing against Wailord, you don't really want to get rid of resources, so it's nice because you don't actually have to remove cards from your deck as you're trading. I could just end them back into play at one point whenever I need to. So,
and here's the thing, though. Does he have a way to disrupt Jay's hand?
I really want to know. Is he going to go? Nope,
he does not.
He opts to just go for the swing. That's it.
All right, so off these 7 cards in his hand, 8 cards now. I saw the max potion. I know that for sure.
He's got a max potion. He's got an enhance hammer.
Oh, man.
So he can actually go max potion, enhance hammer, and play a Skylet to get another tropical beach if he wants to. He could just set everything back into play.
That's so heartbreaking.
He doesn't even have to use a supporter.
Lusamine gets tropical beach from the discard with another supporter.
Right. Doesn't even have to Skylet for it. Just says, I'm going to get the one that you already bumped out. And a Skylet to make sure that I can keep doing this next turn. Whatever I need to do. That's the crazy thing about Lusamine by playing 2 copies, because you get to pick any supporter, including itself. You can infinitely chain Lusamine back to back as long as you didn't prize one of them.
And there we see Judge reading Lusamine, making sure, yeah, this actually gets back Tropical Beach. This card's pretty good.
There's
couple more Pokemon coming down on the bench. Enhanced Hammer, getting rid of the double colorless. That's 3 down now. Max Potion. It's like he did nothing.
Yep. Simon is now down to we're at assuming that he hasn't prized any puzzles and assuming he hasn't prized any DCE. He has 5 copies of DCE left, and once those 5 are out, he does not have any other way of attacking at that point.
Yeah, and the thing is, he's gonna have to dig through his deck to try to find all these resources. But as he's digging through, Jay's like, "All right, I'm gonna probably Skyla for Hugh next turn." Then Hugh, you're to hand down to 5, something like that. Right. Like, Hugh gets really scary the more Simon's forced to dig for these cards.
There is the double puzzle, though, grabbing the double DCE, so at least he's got 2 of them there. Let's going to see another Riot of Speeding for another 130, and Jay at that point, he still got responses to this. He's got a 0 sick in hand, so he can at least get rid of the energy. This comes to be an interesting situation when you don't have either Max Potion and Enhance Hammer and all you have are supporters to be able to heal. You got to choose, well, do I let him take a knockout and not heal, or do I pop the energy?
Like, what's more important kind of thing.
Exactly. So, and in this carries that he has the double colors because he just puzzled of time for it. So if you do go for the heal route, you kind of put yourself in a position where you just got to find that Enhance Hammer one another. But this is why the safeguard really can also make things even trickier.
AZ picking up that damaged Wailord EX back to Jay's hand. Promoting the Hoopa and just like, alright, go. Now you've been trying to find double colorless, well now you need to find Hex Maniac.
Right. And even so, finding the Hex Maniac, you're just taking that 7th prize. You gotta deal with the Hoopa eventually, but you're not exactly accomplishing much in terms of advancing to your win condition because Jay does not play any other non-EX or GX Pokemon. The only other way that helps him is if he ends up using Xurkitree's ability later down the road.
That would be pretty funny. Like, taking actual 7 prizes against Wailord.
Yep. But that's why you play the deck, because you know that there's very few decks that are out there that can actually make that happen.
Alright, he does have the Hex Maniac, and it takes the knockout on the Hoopa, but again, that's not going to really matter in the long run.
Jay is going to be able to remove the double colorless energy this turn with a supporter. I believe he's got 0 sick and a few other options that he can use to get rid of it. So, see Simon going down to 4 double colorless energy once that goes away.
I think we're going to see a Plumeria here from Jay.
Yeah, he decides, I'm never going to need this lightning energy. I'd rather play the Plumeria just to discard a couple cards, and that way also it gives me more cards to be able to draw with the Tropical Beach as well.
Plumeria is a card I thought would have seen more play, especially with all these Zoroark decks playing a multiple execute.
I agree.
It's kind of like a free energy thing, but it's been so good in these lock decks and these deck out decks because you can choose where to discard the energy, unlike Flare Grunt where it's like, I can only do the active.
Right. Flare Grunt is limited to the active, so you can kind of play around it by trying to power up something on the bench, whereas Plumeria gets around that, and like you said, In a lock deck, you get to get rid of resources that you didn't really want. Zoroark gets to get rid of things like Execute. I would love to be seeing seeing that courtesy a little bit more play in some of these Zoroark decks, because with all the double colors and everything else, it's a reusable Enhance Hammer, so to speak.
Right, so we see a Getsus from Simon, and then a Bright Look bringing up the Wailord, putting more pressure on it, and he got rid of some Puzzle at times, some maybe Max Potion, and all he has left is like a Flare Grunt. I'm not sure what else is left in his hand, so it'll be just interesting to see if he could actually save this Wailord. There is Acerola. Alright, that'll do it.
He doesn't have a way to get rid of the energy, it doesn't look like, so it's going to be the Robo-Sub
he's
coming
got
back
time.
up. Exactly, so it doesn't really matter, because he can only Bright Look once, so Robo-Sub comes up, and he's in the same spot he was before, really.
It's really just Simon is trying to fight this deck, and it's such an uphill battle. It's like he's in quicksand, like trying to fight. Can't really get there.
It's going to be a difficult battle for him to be able to overcome. He's just...
And
that's
there's
another
the
one
team
down.
Flare Grunt. What is the double colorless count?
There are 3 left. There's 2
Yeah.
puzzle at a time and 1 physical double colorless left. And again, that's assuming if you even prize 1 puzzle, that's 2 of them that are out of commission. So I'm not really sure which, we don't have prize.
Oh, no, I think he might have played Skyla after playing the Flare Grunt.
I believe so, and he did pick up his deck and start looking through it, so the judges are going to try to figure out what happens. Usually in a scenario where you are looking through the deck or going through it, it does result in prize penalties a lot of the time. We'll know what's happening in just a moment. But to be fair, even if Simon gets to take an extra prize here, I don't know that it's really going to be able to help him that much.
Yeah.
It does take out that 7 prize game, which is pretty interesting, but he's still got 2 more Wailords to go through with only 3 double colorless energy left in his deck. Maximum.
That's true.
3 double colorless.
Looks like Jay will get the Skyla back in his hand. The judge is shuffling the deck.
We're just waiting for the outcome. Takes up a couple moments. When this kind of thing happens, even when it happens, little mistakes like this can happen, even to top level players. You're playing so quickly, you're in the heat of the moment on the stream. It's very natural for things like this to occur. And the judges, when they see it, they like to handle it as best as they can, explain the scenario very detailed to both players, make sure everybody's clear, so they're happy to take their time.
It does look like it was a prize penalty. Simon now down to 4. Skyla goes back in Jay's hand.
Still Jay's turn at this point. Probably get passed up pretty soon. But I definitely want to commend the judge there for catching that, before
that
it got
very
to
fast reaction, yes.
Absolutely. Sometimes we like to just jump on the judges for not catching this or that, but I really like to commend them when they're able to make moments like this, because you really could have solved a situation before it could have gotten a lot worse. So, thank you very much. Jay deciding what else he wants to do for this turn, though. Simon just knowing the clock's
point
ticking.
Where Jay has too many cards in hand to actually use Tropical Beach.
He does have the double puzzle of time, though. It looks like it's back into Simon now. So,
yeah, Jay's resources are off the charts. He has access to almost everything he needs. And there is double colorless number 4 physical copies, so he has 2 puzzles left.
And as long as those last 4 prizes don't have either one of them, he should be all right. But he's got to make each one of these count. So, ideally you'll see it paired with Getsus or something here, but...
Taking a knockout on a Robo-Sub doesn't really help him make it count.
That's a good point. So, it wouldn't even really matter too much, but definitely going to see some way to get rid of this double colorless, or I would assume so, from Jay's side. And
there we see the Skyla for the Enhanced Hammer. And he's really just in the driver's seat. Being double puzzle of time in hand, Beach in play. Opponent's deck now down to just 2 puzzles left for double colorless. You couldn't ask for anything better.
Nope. As the Wailord player, you've got to be feeling pretty comfortable here. And interesting to see him use the Skyla instead of the puzzles, knowing that, you never know what a puzzle can get me any card, at least with the Skyla. I'd just rather get the Enhanced Hammer out now. Make my deck smaller, because at this point, Jay knows how close he is to eliminating the last bit of Simon's resources, so he wants his deck to be nothing but energy denial, so that way at that point, we can cause Simon to be in that position.
It's interesting to see. I think I see a Team Skull Grunt in Jay's hand. So there could be a moment where Simon double puzzles for 2 double colorless, and Jay just goes Enhanced Hammer Team Skull Grunt, discarding both of them.
that would be an absolute. That would just end it right there, really, because you can even get the max potion at the same time with those double puzzle.
Yeah.
So there's nothing you'll be able to do to counteract that play.
There we see the battle compressor from Simon, and unfortunately he has to discard a card with battle compressor because it says up to, but you still have to discard at least one.
Right. You can't have a card. You cannot play a card to no effect, even when it does say up to in situations like that. So you are required still to get that one card. But
he was definitely checking to make sure both puzzle times are in the deck. There's the Getsus. All right, this could help.
He loses the double puzzle, but this is where Simon looks at it and says, "Whoa, I see that Skull Grunt. This is interesting because if I do get the puzzles this turn, even though he doesn't have an enhance hammer or anything now, I'm guaranteed to lose one. This is kind of scary."
Basically all Jay needs to do is okay, I'll Skull Grunt the one from your hand, and then next turn you can take a knockout if you want. It's fine. The next turn I'll just Flare Grunt and I'll win.
Simon says he's going to go for it. Says, you know what? I see what your hands is. I see what you've got to work with. That's fine. I'm going to put the pressure. It is now or never, and he's going to go in with his final 2 DCs, putting the damage on Whaler, setting up the double knockout again. Let's see if he can actually take out one of the whales before the time is actually gone.
All right, Skyfield bumping the Tropical Beach.
Simon actually down to 3 cards, it looks like, but even so, he can always end up putting a lot of them back into the deck as long as Jay doesn't play a hue or something like that here right off the top.
Yeah, and the thing about N against Waylord is you're really just kind of helping them most of the time.
A lot of times.
They're always going to have 6 cards. All right, there's the draw. Tropical Beach off the top. Why not?
I'll bump the Skyfield.
He moved the Skull Grunt to the front of his hand, and there we go. Team Skull Grunt discarding the last double colorless from Simon's hand, leaving only the one in play.
He says, this is a really big hand. Can I pick this up for a moment so I can go through it? I want to be able to actually make sure I register all these cards. It's also too
shiny.
Yeah, very difficult to see. But, I mean, Jay's feeling pretty confident at this point. I like the Skull Grunt here because at this point, he knows where the last double colorless is.
Exactly.
It's right there. It's on the board. You just get rid of that, and that's pretty much the last condition that he needs to meet. At that point, Jay can do things like play Lusamine to get back the Team Rocket's handiwork and the Lusamine at the same time, so that every other turn, he can mill additional cards off Simon's deck, so that even if Jay has drawn more cards at this point, he can make sure to rebalance it out and make sure that Simon is the one to deck out first.
All right, we do see the N in Simon's hand, meaning he has to hope and pray that Jay, for the rest of the game, does not draw a way to get this double colorless off the active.
Interestingly enough, to see that he's playing the Choice Band and playing these Ultra Ball here, it's like he's looking for something. He wants to thin his deck, which usually is the opposite when you're playing Whaler. You usually want to keep cards in your deck. Yeah. So I'm curious as to what he might be looking for or might want to keep in his hand when playing that N overall.
Maybe he could just thin out his deck to where he draws enough Versus Seekers to keep ending his opponent, just in case.
I mean, at this point, he knows that his outs are really, really slim. He literally has to hope that Jay never finds an Enhance Hammer, a Double Puzzle, a Via Seeker,
a Team Flare Grunt, a Xerosic, a Plumeria.
The list goes on for a while. There are a lot of outs for Jay. Sure, he's used quite a bit of them as well, but it's 4 Flare Grunt, 2 Plumeria. He's got Xerosic. There's quite a bit of outs.
Yeah, Versus Seeker on top of that. And we'll see here if Jay's 6 cards.
And he's got Computer Search. And I believe I see a Versus Seeker as one of the cards in there. And I definitely see a Skyla, so if there's still an Enhanced Hammer left, then
all right,
one of the
Simon did get down to, and there's the top deck Team Flare Gun as well. Team Flare Gun, and that is the concession from Simon. Jay takes this game 2-0 in kind of dominating fashion.
Yep.
Just the ability for Waylord to combat Zoroark decks where they don't play really anything else but double colorless.
Right.
Especially with Simon not playing Special Charge.
Absolutely.
It kind of puts him at a disadvantage just going in.
Right. This has got to be the scenario where you might regret not playing the Special Charge in your deck. It's a risk card to be able to not play that because you've got Puzzle of Time to get them back anyways, but if you're able to puzzle time a special charge and a DC at the same time, it really adds to the amount of double color synergies that your opponent has to deal with in this there. But definitely, that's a big reason why I feel like Wailord is going to be seeing play from players of top caliber like Jay with such a solid matchup as we just saw there against Zoroark, easily the most popular deck that we've been seeing here at Dallas Regionals. Definitely the largest. I mean, it's just crazy the amount of Zoroark that's going to be seen. If Jay finds the right people, he can find himself coasting to that 7-2 record and advancing into the day 2.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll be right back with a player interview of Jay Lesage and his Wailord deck. Stay tuned.